Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to take a look at how to create a retro style look here in Photoshop. So this style is something that's actually fairly common in filters like you'll find on Instagram and things like that. So let's look at how we can create this here in Photoshop. So here I have a simple picture that I've taken. It's just a picture of a tree. So the first step, I'm going to come in and add a little bit more contrast to this photo here. So I'm going to come in and create a new curves adjustment layer. I'm going to use the selection here, the eyedrop. So this would be to select a black point in your image, and then this would be a neutral gray, and then this would be to find a white point. So usually these are for white balancing your photo. That's kind of the intention for these. But we can use these to actually help kind of increase the contrast some. So I want to pick a dark point maybe on the tree here. You can see it's going to kind of start to add a little bit of contrast. Now, there's not really a straight white point in this particular photo. So I'm going to pick somewhere that's pretty bright up here. And that's going to blow out our photo quite a bit. So I can come into these channels, just bring it back a little bit. So in the red, I'm going to bring it back to kind of where this histogram starts to drop off here. And then same for the green and then the blue. There we go. All right, so the end result is that we get a little bit more contrast in this photo. All right, so once we have that, I'm going to come in and add in this actual stylization to it. So I'm going to come in, create a new adjustment layer. It's going to be a gradient map. So I'm going to select that. And then let's pick some colors here. And I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to pick something maybe like a bluish color for the dark areas. So you can see that effect that it has there. And then maybe something like a bright yellow. Again, kind of going crazy and really starting to just over stylize this quite a bit. So you can see that effect that we have on the photo here. I'm going to start to dial this down to maybe somewhere around 40%. So you can see the result. So what we have before and then after, you can see we're really starting to get this nice kind of a retro style feel to this particular photo. Now we can keep pushing this if we want to. So if we wanted to kind of add some adjustments around the edges, I'm going to hold down Alt and then left click in order to take this background layer and turn it into just a regular layer. What that's going to allow me to do is to add effects to it. So now I can just double click, add an effect. I'm going to add maybe an inner shadow. And what that's going to do is that's going to add this effect around the corner here. So double click, let's look at this inner shadow. And I'm going to set the angle. The angle doesn't really matter too much because I'm going to set the distance to be 0. And then the size, so if I bring the size all the way down, you can see this effect here. So if I set this to be at 0, then the size is just going to feather that. You can start to see that pull in here. Actually, if I change this color just to make it a little bit easier to see, you'll be able to see this better. There we go. So we can see the effect that this is having. It's just a real subtle, almost like a vignette type effect, but it's very subtle around the edges and it adds a little bit of that retro style feel to this photo. So once we kind of have the shape of it, then we can come in and adjust the color. So maybe add kind of a bluish color, kind of to match that gradient map that we had, something like that. I'm going to burn this in a little bit and then just kind of bring it down just so it's a subtle effect around the edges. So you can see what that's done there. So this was before and then after. You can see it's adding in just that nice little subtle effect to our photo. And I think there's one more thing I'm going to do to this photo, and let's just come in and add another curves on top. Drag this to the top here and just start to bring this down just a little bit. Just to add a little bit more contrast and really push this just a little bit further. All right, so you can start to see how when we're playing with adjustment layers, we can really start to add some really cool effects. So this is before with our original photo with no corrections whatsoever, and then we added in a curve to bring in some contrast to our photo. We added in a gradient map to help kind of give it that retro feel, and then we increased the contrast just a little bit more with another curves, and then we added in this shadow around the edge to help give us that retro feel. All right, great. Well, hopefully you've learned something and kind of picked up some tips and tricks for adding a retro feel to a photograph here inside of Photoshop. Until next time, thanks for watching.